radar now. I'll come back into the storm center. In fact, I'm going to let Jacob talk for a second on that.
Yeah, continuing to see that northern eye wall continuing to work its way up through Cameron Parish right now. Very heavy rain and strong winds, as Wade has been describing over the past, say, 5-10 minutes here. Looking out the window, definitely coming down in sheets and almost in the sideways direction. But this is where some of the strongest winds that we're going to see here in downtown Lake Charles are going to begin to move through the region. You can see this dark, heavy band of rain that extends from central portions of Cameron Parish back down into Vermilion Parish. This is where a lot of the heavy and the strongest winds are, and this is all working its way up towards the north. So Lake Arthur back down towards that region, beginning to see those effects now. We talked about Teresa Lyons in Lake Arthur. She said that conditions were going downhill as well. A lot of heavy rain now moving into portions of Beauregard as well as Allen up into Vernon Parish. Flash flood warnings are in effect. Those were what those red polygons are. We talked about the one here for Lake Charles goes until 7 o'clock. The one a little bit further towards the north, that goes until 8 o'clock or 8:45 this evening. And now a new one that encompasses Beauregard as well as portions of Allen Parish, that goes until 7 o'clock. But as we look a little bit further off towards the south, we've been mentioning the fact that we're not really dealing with a lot of rain on the southern side, and you really can't tell where the center of circulation is. You can tell that it's in this general vicinity right here, but other than that, it's really ingested a lot of dry air, and that has really since diminished the exact location of the center. I know there's a hurricane plane that I've been tracking, but still, it's going to be very close if it gets to the center of circulation before it does make landfall, as it is still racing off towards the northeast at 14 miles per hour. Here's a look at some of those wind speeds. You can see 62 miles per hour in Cameron, 49 in Lake Charles, and I will say once this number does update, I do anticipate this number to be higher because we've been looking outside, and as I look now, continuing to see the sheets of rain, some of the debris kind of blowing through the streets as well. Definitely gusting upwards of 50 to maybe even 60 miles per hour as this northern eye wall continues to inch closer to southwest Louisiana. Good news is we are on the western side, but still tracking the latest. We'll also pull up the Jennings sky cam as that rain band continues to move a little bit closer as well. Winds out of the easterly direction around 20 to 25 miles per hour out there, gusting upwards of 45 at times. Right now, not really gusting as a lot of the rain has kind of come to an end. Not the heaviest rain we've seen by far. You can see it kind of looks milky off in the distance. The camera's shaking pretty good out there. That's because that heavier rain band continues to work its way up. And this is looking off towards the south. So this is the way the rain band is pushing forward. So this is something we're going to continue to watch as it does inch closer to Jennings. I do expect these winds to really begin to kick up as that northern eye wall pushes through. Wind gusts 70 to maybe 90 miles per hour, maybe even a little bit stronger in some of the heaviest bands. But here is the latest on Hurricane Delta. This is the 4 o'clock advisory, and there should be another one coming out pretty soon that might actually already be out. But the 5 o'clock advisory hasn't come out yet. But right now, 35 miles south of Cameron Parish, this is the 4 o'clock. 105 mile per hour winds, gusts to 125, moving off towards the northeast at 14 miles per hour. So making landfall within the hour or maybe another hour at most, but nearing landfall there in southeastern Cameron Parish as a Category 2 storm. But it will continue to race off towards the north very quickly as we head into the overnight hours. We've been talking about how fast it is moving as it continues to gain speed. You can see by the time we reach the overnight hours, already up towards Alexandria. This will be around the midnight time frame or a little bit after that, but it's going to be out of our hair very quickly. And let's go ahead and take a look at those wind speeds as what we can expect coming up over the next couple of hours. So doing a pretty good job in terms of the future cast. You can see the I know it's really kind of hard to see, but the northern tip of that eye beginning to move into Cameron Parish, saying winds gusting here upwards of 62 miles per hour in Lake Charles. I think that's pretty close. A little bit less there in Cameron, but they're still gusting to 60. But by standards of a model run, this is doing a really good job at portraying those wind speeds. And as we head closer to 6 o'clock this evening, maybe winds gusting upwards of 80 miles per hour or so here in Lake Charles. So definitely going to get a little bit breezier. We still have several hours to go. Not going to be just a quick mover necessarily in terms of those winds, because we're going to be dealing with them by the 7 o'clock time frame. gusting there in Jennings upwards of 80 miles per hour. Still the same here in Lake Charles. You can see sustained winds though 40 to 50 miles per hour. So we're not going to be getting those hurricane force sustained necessarily unless you're right next to the center of circulation back towards Abbeville as well as Jennings and towards the coastline and Cameron. But as we head into the 8 o'clock time frame, winds begin to subside. Check out Beaumont. They're already back down to around 34 miles per hour. We're still gusting out of the northwesterly direction around 60 to 70 here in Lake Charles. But as we progress through the evening, especially as we head into midnight, this storm by midnight up near the Alexandria region, maybe a little bit further towards the south. But check out the winds relaxing, much calmer conditions in here in Lake Charles, 26 miles per hour. So once again, these conditions will be improving as we head into our Saturday morning, especially by the time a lot of people are waking up around 7 o'clock. Those winds subsiding very quickly out there, and it's definitely not going to be like Laura, as Wade mentioned earlier, as this system is going to continue to move off towards the north-northeast very quickly. Here's the latest look in terms of the infrared satellite. You can see some of that deeper convection actually on land now. Definitely not seeing that deeper convection on the southern side of the storm. Very elongated. That's because we're dealing with a lot of dry air working its way into the system, as well as a lot of wind shear. So that worked in our favor, as well as those cooler water temperatures. There is the latest update now. Winds down to 100 miles per hour, currently 25 miles south-southeast of Cameron Parish. So if you remember, we were 35 miles south of Cameron in the 4 o'clock advisory. Well, now we're to the south-southeast, so that's showing you that it's moving off towards the north-northeast, still at that 14 mile per hour clip. Pressure up 2 millibars as well, but with that 14 mile an hour speed, that means it's going to be making landfall within the next hour, or at least in the next half hour to an hour. Definitely not going to be looking at a landfall later than, say, 6 to 6:30 this evening. And once again, that model doing a really good job. But let's go back to the radar, as this is some of the heaviest and and the strongest winds we've been seeing so far. By far, this is that northern eye wall that I've been talking about, as well as Chief Meteorologist Wade Hampton has. Continuing to move off towards the north, and definitely some very strong winds, even a couple of lightning strikes embedded as well at times. But this is where we're seeing those winds really gusting upwards of, say, 60 to 80 miles per hour. We've been tracking the wind speeds, not really updating, but 60 miles per hour is what we're dealing with in Cameron, and they're just now on that southern side of that eye wall. So things really beginning to kind of ramp down there in Cameron. But don't let your guard down, because just because you see there's no rain really on the southern side of the storm doesn't mean that the wind's not there. And it's kind of like what Wade was alluding to with Rita, where it was the northern half that brought all the rain, and then all of a sudden on the second half of that storm, we didn't see that rain, but we saw the wind still continuing to increase. And looking outside, you can definitely tell some of those stronger winds. I don't know if we have our camera set up. Wade actually moved it so we can get a different vantage point, but if you could pull up our camera, and we can kind of show you the sheets of rain that is continuing to move through. Definitely not as heavy as it has been, but you can still see the trees blowing. Good news is we still have power along Division Street, continuing to see that power there as well. And that's at least the good news, is the majority of Southwest Louisiana looks to continue to have power, but there are some of those areas that are beginning to lose it. But you can see the very heavy rainfall still coming down, and it'll be interesting to see as that eye wall continues to move off towards the north, how strong the winds get here in downtown. I know they've been gusting upwards of, say, 45 to 50 miles per hour, but would not be shocked to get some hurricane force gusts, especially with that eye wall as it continues to move, especially into eastern Calcasieu Parish, back over towards Lacassine, and I can definitely hear the wind blowing in the background. The camera, you can see some of those sheets continuing to blow through as that heavy rain does continue to work our way in. And we can go back to the radar and kind of check out what we're looking at in terms of the heavy rainfall. Still, we're dealing with those flash flood warnings, which you could expect, especially with all the heavier rain that we're continuing to deal with. But once again, that eye wall beginning to be very close to the coastline there in Cameron. Once again, 25 miles south-southeast of downtown Cameron. But over towards the Rockefeller Wildlife Refuge, some of that rain beginning to subside. And really, for the second half of this storm, we're not going to be talking about the rain, but it's going to be more about the wind impacts that are going to be felt across our area. But for areas such as Vernon, Beauregard, as well as Allen, you have a little ways to go, especially with this heavier rain. Calcasieu, you're looking at probably another hour to an hour and a half of this very heavy torrential downpours before this begins to slide off towards the north and the east. But we still have the wraparound moisture that's back towards Beaumont, so we have to clear that through the area as well. But we're going to be continuing to track those strong winds that are moving through. We'll take another look and see if those wind values actually have updated. And yes, in Cameron it has now gusting to 71 miles per hour. Still not really changed there in Lake Charles, but I do suspect that these winds are a little bit stronger than what that is showing. More out of the easterly direction for Jennings, that now reporting 28 mile per hour sustained winds. Abbeville gusting upwards of 46. But you can see the easterly component on the eastern side of that system, and Wade's got something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I had a friend of mine that told me that the National Weather Service, they had recently had a gust to 68 miles per hour. So definitely beginning to see those numbers beginning to really ramp up, which is exactly what we expect to see. And we're seeing that already with that Cameron reporting site too.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's associated with that northern eye wall that's continuing to push through, and this is going to be the worst of the weather. You can see some of that heavier rain actually beginning to fill in a little bit more into Calcasieu Parish, as well as back over towards Jeff Davis. I know we've talked about Teresa Lyons, our weather watcher in Lake Arthur. She said that the conditions were going downhill as well, and that's where some of the strongest winds actually are. We'll pull up the velocity, and now, granted, this is looking at Fort Polk, but the heavy rainfall could be bringing these values down just a little bit. Going to continue to look at the velocities. I know we were looking earlier when it was into Cameron Parish. That was looking at about 100 mile per hour wind. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we're experiencing. This is around the Lake Arthur region. So there's a couple of gusts around 60 miles per hour. A little bit further back into Cameron Parish, we're looking at 103. So this is in that northern eye wall where that very heavy rainfall is making its way through. Now, granted, we're still looking from several thousand feet up, but with that heavy rain, not going to be out of the question to get these down to the surface. At least winds gusting around 90 miles per hour or a little bit greater. So that's something we're going to continue to watch as well, especially as this line begins to push a little bit closer to the Jennings region. We'll pull up that Jennings Skycam one more time and take a look and see what we're exactly experiencing there. You can see definitely the heavier rain beginning to move through. Winds now upwards of 46 miles per hour. So that's some of the stronger winds we've seen so far this afternoon. And I expect these winds to continue to increase as we head into the next, say, hour or two, especially as this line does push through Jennings. But very heavy rainfall out there. It looks almost foggy, but that is the heavy rainfall and the sheets of rain that are continuing to work their way through. And this is something we're going to be tracking, of course, with you throughout the rest of this evening as the system as a whole continues to work its way off towards the north-northeast. There's a 51 mile per hour gust as well. And it's not sustained necessarily, but these winds are gusting upwards of 50 to 60 miles per hour. So definitely going to be stronger. And for those continuing to stay here in Calcasieu as well as in the southwest Louisiana, what you still need to do, and this is really the time that you need to be in the center of your home, the most interior room that you can find, and then also take with you a blanket as well as maybe a mattress to help you continue to remain safe from the flying debris that could penetrate the home. But take your phone charger, a hammer or crowbar, just in case there is some debris down, but also water and snacks, because you're going to be there for a little bit of time, especially with what we told you with Laura. But at this point, you should be in that safe room as some of these stronger winds continue to work their way through southwest Louisiana, especially into Calcasieu, Jeff Davis, and Cameron Parish as these winds continue to work their way off towards the north. And we'll take another look at the radar and kind of look at, see where that northern eye wall is exactly at the moment. And we're going to be continuing to track this probably for the next, say, hour or so here into downtown Lake Charles. Of course, continue to look out the side window out there, continue to watch those sheets of rain continue to make their way through the region. Cameron Parish, you're beginning to clear out with some of that heavier rain. We talked about on the southern end of this, a lot of dry air. That means that the rainfall is definitely not quite as much as what we've been seeing, which is good news because that's going to mitigate the fact that we could see a lot of flooding out there. But as we look into Lake Charles back over towards Jennings as well as back towards Lake Arthur, that's where the heaviest rain continues to make its way through, as well as those stronger winds, those wind gusts, as Wade mentioned, back up into the upper 60s there at the National Weather Service in Lake Charles, which is near the regional airport. But we're also continuing to track those winds along the Cameron coastline. 71. Here's Lacassine now gusting to 61 miles per hour. Those winds out of the northeasterly direction. 36 mile per hour sustained winds. So we're seeing tropical storm conditions sustained here, especially along and south of the I-10 corridor. Now, areas to the north not quite as strong, but even DeQuincy gusting to 45 miles per hour. As I mentioned, Cameron sitting at 71 miles per hour. So definitely very strong winds continuing to work its way through the region as well. And taking another look at the Jennings Skycam, we're going to continue to watch this one very closely because this is where some of the stronger winds as well as the rain is continuing to move through. We just looked at it a moment ago, saw those winds gusting upwards of 55 miles per hour, but definitely those heavy tropical downpours moving through. This is the northern eye wall of Hurricane Delta. Those winds gusting out of the east around 55 miles per hour, and this is going to be continuing over the next, say, hour or so as this begins to lift off towards the north and eventually impacts areas of southern Allen Parish as it works its way off towards the northeast. Once again, if you're just kind of tuning in, this is the 5 o'clock advisory on Hurricane Delta. Good news is continuing to weaken as it gets closer. Right now, winds 100 miles per hour, gusts to 125. That pressure slowly rising as well. 25 mile per hour, or 25 miles south-southeast of Cameron, Louisiana. So getting very close to the Cameron coastline, making landfall within, say, the next half hour to maybe hour. But by the time we get to 6:30, I fully suspect that this will be making landfall and still racing off towards the northeast at 14 miles per hour. But a very lopsided storm in terms of all the rainfall. You can see the southern half of the storm very distorted off towards the east as it's continuing to deal with that dry air as well as that shear. Most of the rain continuing to remain off towards the northern portion of the storm. So continuing to watch that northern eye wall, continuing to push through southern portions of Jeff Davis, southern portions of Calcasieu, and northern Cameron Parish now. But over towards Rockefeller Wildlife Refuge, as I mentioned, continuing to see that drier air continuing to work its way in. So don't let your guard down if you're still one of those 100 that are in Cameron Parish, because once the rain comes to an end, we're still going to have to deal with that southern half of the storm where winds are going to be gusting back up to tropical storm force winds and higher than that. So that's something we're going to continue to watch, of course, for you. But very heavy rainfall falling across Calcasieu, back up into Beauregard as well as Allen. Wade?
And I also have some more information coming because there is a communications problem happening with the Lake Charles Regional Airport as far as the automated weather station that's there. Unfortunately, we're losing communications with that. Not sure what the issue is, but obviously it's the hurricane related. But the folks at the National Weather Service being kind to continue to send us information. And so far, the amount of rain at the Lake Charles Regional is just under 6 inches of rain for today. 5.96 inches of rain has already fallen, and again, that wind gust to about 68 miles per hour having already occurred. And Jacob showed you this map a minute ago of the wind speed, and I was able to find another reporting station to add to the map. Always try to add in as many as I can to the map, especially right now. We'll deal with the clutter that's showing up on here. Lacassine, that's a reporting station there. That's pretty current. In fact, it had updated just as Jacob took that. So I know that that one is reporting fairly good. Hopefully it will stay up and running because it's going to be interesting to see if those winds really begin to ramp up as this northern eye wall approaches that vicinity. 61 miles per hour is the highest wind gust there. 71 the highest on the map currently in Cameron. We're going to continue to monitor things. I believe we're going to send things to the news desk for a few minutes. We're going to be monitoring things here, and of course we'll be right back with a few updates in a minute.
All right, thanks so much, Jacob and Wade. We're actually going to talk about power outages for just a quick second. With all that rain and wind that's picking up through southwest Louisiana, we have a lot of power outages already. Entergy is reporting just over 10,000 customers without power right now. Again, that's over Calcasieu, Cameron, and Jeff Davis parishes, the majority of those in Calcasieu, rather, with 9,800 out. Then we've got Beauregard Electric that's reporting around 13,000 outages already. Again, the majority of those in Calcasieu Parish with 6,100, 3,900 in Beauregard, 16 in Allen, 11 in Vernon, and that is the Beauregard Electric map there that's on the screen that you can see those numbers. Beauregard now 6,000. These numbers have just changed since I was given numbers just a few seconds ago. So now we're looking at well over 13,000 15,000, 15,000 out without power right now on Beauregard Electric. And the same goes again for Entergy. If we have that map, there you go. You can see those massive outages. When Entergy has enough outages to report, instead of doing individual ones where they show the little icons that maybe you're used to, they instead do these major grids that show major portions of the outages there. And so those are a lot of power outages going on. The same goes for Jeff Davis Electric. The exact numbers are unknown. They don't have an outage map online that we can look at, but they've got some outages already. And Cleco dealing with a few outages as well. They serve a lot of customers to the north of Southwest Louisiana, the most northern part, and they've got outages already. And of course, as that storm makes its way north, it's only going to get stronger and cause more outages there. And I know a lot of people were without power for a very long time. Some never got their power turned back on. And this is, again, just causing more destruction and more power outages, which no one wanted to see. On the phone now, joining us is Calcasieu Parish Police Jury President Tony Guillory. And Tony, you're riding out this storm at the Police Jury building, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now.
Well, I'm looking at the oak trees, and they are blowing, and the wind is blowing very hard. The lights are still on. Ryan Street lights are still on, so we still have power and everything. But actually, the trees, like I said, and the wind is blowing very hard. It's about 50 miles an hour now. We're expected to get 100, and so bunkering down.
That's right. And so you were there during Laura as well, right?
Yes, I was.
And so how would you say the two, you've ridden out both of these storms here in downtown Lake Charles, and thus far, how would you say the two compare?
It's no comparison. For Laura, I felt the building moving. And, it's no comparison for Laura. They came in at 200 miles an hour late night. There's no comparison. It felt like the building was moving. You could feel it, and feel the windows like they was just cracking.
Mm-hmm. And describe the feeling that you're getting where you are right now. Describe to me what it feels like in there.
We're really not feeling anything, Laura. No, the building not. We was in the 901 at first, and now we're just in the police jury building. So the 901 building, I guess because of the height, felt like it was moving. But this one is not, not feeling anything or anything, Laura. I mean, Jillian.
So after Hurricane Laura, you and I actually saw each other just right at daylight. As soon as the sheriff's office opened the storm doors and we got in the vehicle and tried to carve that path to Lake Charles Memorial, you actually were right behind us, managed to join that caravan. So you saw the destruction before a lot of people did through Lake Charles. What do you expect this time around?
Well, I don't think as many trees is going to be down, Jillian, but I do think it's going to be rain inside of a lot of people's houses. I don't know how much the tarps is even able to hold up. I was on my way here, and one almost flew across my dash. It was hanging on to the tree, and it blew out in the road, and then it went back in.
Oh, wow.
So the tarps are going to be flying around, and the one thing about it is that the insurance companies, you don't have to pay another deductible. So that's will help out a lot of situations.
Yeah, that's right. That's something that Insurance Commissioner Jim Donelon put out just yesterday as a reminder to everyone that you don't have to pay that hurricane deductible twice. Now, some people have to then pay their peril deductible, I hear, but you don't have to pay that hurricane deductible twice, which is great to hear. But Tony, tell me about the people, in your neighborhood and those you represent who've tried to make repairs on their homes, maybe tried to put a tarp on them, and now the feeling of knowing they might lose it all again.
So, Jillian, and also we need to get Jeff Davis to the table, because one part in my district, Manchester part, didn't come on till just a few days ago. Last week, Monday, I think they came on. And so we definitely need to include Jeff Davis to the table on this situation, so that way we can have the report from everybody. But my district around the home this morning, the lights went out about 1. I was at the house, and rain was coming in through the house, so I left because one of my walls got kind of blown out.
Oh, wow.
So, but we definitely need to invite Jeff Davis to the table this time.
Kind of a meeting of minds from all of the Southwest Louisiana parishes, all of Region 5.
Right, because we still have some of Calcasieu that Jeff Davis service. So we definitely need to also get them there to the table.
All right. Thanks so much, Tony. Do you have any last
Get a report this morning with CNN, and I just, as I told them, we need federal money coming in, and we don't need to be forgotten. You know, normally after the storm passes, they forget about you. We cannot let Lake Charles go like this, because Lake Charles, we're taking a beating, and nobody, I don't think, had this beating like this before. But I want to tell everybody, if you are in town, please be safe. We're not through this yet. We haven't got through this yet. Please be safe and make sure you have enough. Hopefully you have enough things that'll last you through, because without no lights and everything.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Police Jury President Tony Guillory. Thank you again. We'll be checking in a bit later.
Thank you, Jillian.
All right. Thank you. To discuss is, once this storm has passed, the threat is not over. In fact, most of the deaths blamed on Hurricane Laura were a result of carbon monoxide poisoning from improper generator use. The most important safety tip: do not use a generator inside your home, or make sure you place it at least 10 feet away from your home. For sure. You also don't want to place those inside a garage of any sort. I know that's something that a lot of people do. They say, well, it's not near my home or right next to a window, I'm going to put it in the garage. A lot of people's garages are attached to their homes, so you certainly don't want to put that in a garage that's going to be able to be part of the same air system as your home. It's very, very, very dangerous. Again, you don't want that anywhere near your home, open window, or even in a garage that may have a connected attic of any sort. And this includes keeping them out there, again, like I said, in the garage. You want to keep those well away from any windows.
Anytime we're using generators, the main thing we want to focus on is ventilation. Exhaust fumes from generators create CO. CO we refer to in the hazmat industry as it's a silent killer. It's an odorless, colorless gas that by the time you're aware of an exposure, most of the time it's too late.
Again, the biggest takeaway from this: not running generators in your home, and make sure you keep carbon monoxide detectors handy. You can grab one from any hardware store as soon as they reopen. Now we're going to turn we have Lake Charles Mayor Nick Hunter on the phone. And Mayor Hunter, where are you riding the storm out?
I am in a safe location in downtown Lake Charles.
Great, great. And so what are you seeing from this storm?
Well, I'm seeing deja vu a little bit right now. It's certainly not what Laura was yet. We don't expect it to be at this moment in time. But a lot of wind, a lot of rain, and it's definitely a hurricane.
For sure. And I will say, I agree with you. It's definitely not Laura, but certainly reminiscent for sure. What do you say to the people of Lake Charles right now? You've said it, I've said it. Everyone here is tired. They're exhausted.
We're all tired, and that's really okay to feel that way. We're frustrated. We're got about 1,000 emotions going through our minds right now, and that's okay. Those are very natural things. But we're going to get through this. The sun's going to come out again. I've said that a few times. Someone texted me that the other day, and that's kind of my new motto: is the sun will come out again. As we're in the thick of this right now, the main concern is human safety and human life. And if you're in Lake Charles right now, if you chose not to evacuate, please know that this is a very dangerous time over the next couple hours. So please pay attention to your surroundings. And as you guys have said, you've given lots of advice on what people should do if they're in their home. Heed that advice. But look, we're going to come through this. Lake Charles is a strong community. Southwest Louisiana is a strong community. We're not going to sit on our hands. We're going to start picking up the pieces immediately after this thing goes through.
That's wonderful to hear, and I think that's what everybody wants to hear for sure. 6 weeks after Laura, and while some people have managed to already get new roofs and repair their homes, of course, a lot of people are just making it home for the very first time. It was just earlier this week that the Red Cross was bringing back people to assess their homes for the first time, those evacuees. So do you know anything about that process as far as bringing them back this time around?
Oh gosh, we're right in the middle of a hurricane right now.
Of course.
I can't give you an estimate on bringing people back or evacuees back in Lake Charles. It's going to depend on how this place looks tomorrow morning.
Of course, of course. So what's the plan for the city right now? I know we're in the thick of it. It's just making landfall right now. But the plan for Lake Charles over these next few hours.
Well, we are definitely in hunker down mode. It is not safe at all to be on the roads. It is not safe for public safety to be on the roads. And unfortunately, we are in a moment where there is going to be a lag between public safety being able to get to someone if they need them. And that pains me to say it. And I know that our fire department, our police department feel the same way because it's in their DNA to rescue people and save lives. That's what they do. But as soon as this thing passes, our public safety is going to hit the streets. Our public works department is going to hit the streets to make sure that the roads are at least traversable, and so that our public safety can get around. And we're going to start answering calls for those people that did call 911 if they have any issues. And you know, there's 1,000 things that we're going to be doing over the next few days, but we're going to be putting the pieces back together.
Great. One thing, and we just got off the phone with Police Jury President Tony Guillory a second ago, and he mentioned it as well, and you've mentioned it in the past also, is Lake Charles needs to not be forgotten about. You've been very adamant about that.
I am, and we are a smaller city when you look at the whole scheme of things, and when you look at America. We are a city of 80,000. Calcasieu Parish is a population of about 200,000. We take care of ourselves down here by and large. I mean, we don't really wait on other people to come help. We help ourselves, and we stand up and offer a hand when our brother needs it. But the magnitude of this for Laura and Delta is historic. It's unprecedented. It's catastrophic. And not forget that. And I don't just mean that in I mean that in a very serious way, from an energy standpoint, from a tourism standpoint. Where we are located along the Gulf, we are an important American city, and we are going to need American help to get through this.
For sure. All right, thank you, Charles, and we'll be checking in with you within the next few hours again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, now joining us now is Teresa Schmidt. You've been out in this earlier today whenever the winds allowed for it, and now you're joining us with someone on the phone, right?
Yes, and believe me, I'll be staying in the office here for the rest of the hurricane. On the phone with me is one of my neighbors, Sarah Wilson. She and her husband are originally from North Carolina, and so this is, I think, their second hurricane in Louisiana. Sarah, tell me, I know you left for Laura, but now you're back here in Lake Charles. Tell me what made you decide to go ahead and stay this time.
Well, I guess there were a number of things. First of all, we did leave at the last minute for Laura and then came back immediately the next day and just worked super, super hard like everybody else for the next couple of weeks trying to get our lives put back together. For this storm, we decided to stay. I was actually in North Carolina last week, and I drove 16 hours home so I would be here with my husband to help get everything buttoned up. And so we would have Saturday to start cleaning our lives up again. But we felt that this was the best decision for us, as our house does have a tarp on it, but it's holding. We were very fortunate that the 115-year-old glass held. We lost several storm windows in Laura, but on my way home, I stopped in Lafayette yesterday afternoon and picked them up, and we got up at sunrise and put them on the house, and I'm very grateful for that.
Well, you folks are way more industrious than many of us. How is it going in the neighborhood? What is it like? Are you scared?
We're not scared, but our front door faces west and our front covered porch faces south. So we can open our front door and are very, very protected, feel very safe. And we have steadily watched conditions deteriorate. We've watched a tarp blow off some apartments further down the street. We could hear it. It sounded like it was our tarp before it finally broke loose. but we're watching it. Obviously, it's been raining all day, but we've just in the last 10 minutes, we have direct TV, and we've just lost our satellite service, but it's been going really well all day. We still have power, however, we are seeing some flickering going on. So we had an early dinner to make sure we would be fed, and we are just paying attention and watching the house and the neighborhood very closely. There is some debris, but it's flapping, but it's not flying yet.
Well, you know, we have a mutual friend, and let's not mention his name, but he decided to stay during Laura, and he told me that from now on, if we have a Cat 1, he will be taking off. So, you know, what do you think it's going to be like when it gets at its roughest?
Well, I don't have a marker. Our house is 115 years old, and she has obviously withstood a whole lot worse than what we're going to go through. Not discounting it, we did make preparations we pulled all of our furniture in off of the walls, and we have plywood on the inside of our house. If we do have an encroachment, if we lose a window, we can, within 30 seconds, we have drills and screws and headlamps. Because we have so many windows in the house, we didn't have time to get all the boards up, so we decided to attack that situation from the inside. I am so grateful we left for Laura. I was so afraid that I probably would have had a heart attack or died of anxiety. I'm much calmer tonight.
Well, what are you going to do if it gets really scary? I know a lot of the time people talk about the noise, and I think that's part of the reason they just decide they're never going to do it again. I mean, what is your plan if it sounds like the house is coming apart? Do you have mattresses there, or what are you going to do to protect yourself?
We have an interior closet. We have a really great closet that we have already emptied out, and we have put our dog beds in there, and we are prepared to weather the storm out in the most protected area in the house. We sat here this afternoon, and when waiting for you to come, waiting to have this interview, we really experienced a really good blow when we lost the satellite, and we know we're in for it, but we feel like we're well prepared, and the house, I don't think the house will fail us, and I think we've done everything we can, and we feel really good about the situation right now, and we're committed to it, obviously.
Well, and I know you have dogs, and when you have dogs, it makes it much harder to just take off and go find a hotel room. So is that part of the reason you stay?
Oh, most definitely. We have 3 labs, 2 young ones and an older one. And that's the other thing, is that I was very upset and anxious, and they were taking the signals from me for Laura. And when we all hopped in the truck and left, you could see everybody just settle. And we're just a whole lot calmer. I'm very proud of myself. I'm very calm, and we're just very diligent, and we're just sitting here on the sofa and taking it easy and listening and watching. We get up about every 15 to 20 minutes and check the windows. Actually, my husband William has just gone to the sun porch to mop up some water. Apparently, our sun porch faces the north, and that's where we're getting. You can feel it, you can see it, and you can hear it. Definitely.
Well, are you seeing any other people in the neighborhood?
We put our cars in a parking garage at 10 o'clock this morning, and we literally have been out front and busily working and preparing. We have had no cars down the street, obviously no walkers. I think everybody is gone. People that stayed for Laura are gone. They're no doubt left 2 days ago, left yesterday, and we had the last people tell us they were leaving at 5 o'clock this morning.
Okay, so any other thoughts on this before we let you go? And by the way, I do want to check back with you after the storm has passed to see if you would do it again. But any other thoughts on this?
Well, everybody just needs to just keep your eye on the horizon. This too will pass. We've all done everything that we can, and tomorrow the sun is going to come up, and we will push that ball a little bit further over the line tomorrow. That's all we can do. We just have to get up and put one foot in front of the other and reach a hand back to everyone we can.
Okay, great. And this has been Sarah Wilson, who lives in the Garden District of Lake Charles.
All right, thank y'all so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Sarah, especially for joining us today and giving us that inside look. And that video that you saw was actually something that she took,
sent
correct?
it in. Yes.
That's right. And you could see someone's tarp not just flapping in the breeze, but exiting that home's roof as well. It took off for sure.
Yeah. She said my tarp's still there, so yay.
Go Teresa. We hope that it stays on for sure.
Well, it was a Army Corps of Engineers tarp, so
hopefully it'll do the trick.
Hoping they are better than, you know, some of the tarps we've been doing ourselves.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Best of luck to you, and thank you so much. We're going to turn now to Cinnamon Cornell, who's over at the Golden Nugget.
That's right, Joel. So we are on the first level of the parking garage at the Golden Nugget near the exit where winds are surely picking up as Hurricane Delta approaches us as soon as possible. Now, I'm going to give you a look over here to the left. These signs in the back, all the parking garage signs are just swinging around, holding on for dear life. Now, one of them has been completely ripped off, but it just gives you a visual picture of how strong these winds are. And I'm going to take you over to the right side of this exit sign. This exit sign has been swaying back and forth, making noises. Again, just another image of how strong these winds are. And right beneath that, you can just see the wind completely swaying past the parking garage, the rain, and we've even seen a few pieces of small debris kind of rush into the parking garage. The winds are definitely strong. We've been in this parking garage now for about 2 to 3 hours, and then this is the strongest the wind has been. We were speaking to meteorologist Jacob Durham just earlier, who notified us that we are on the west side of the eye wall, which definitely makes sense, and we are feeling those conditions right now, and we do expect those weather conditions to worsen as time goes on and as Hurricane Delta approaches us even closer. But we are going to continue to monitor these conditions. We will be here at the Golden Nugget through landfall. But for now, we're going to send it back to you at your service. Live in Lake Charles, I'm Cinnamon Cornell, KPLC 7 News.
All right, thank you so much, Cinnamon. Again, we've got reporters stationed around Southwest Louisiana right now, and we're going to right now toss things back over to Wade Hampton upstairs in the Weather Center. Wade?
Yeah, Jillian, continuing to watch, you could kind of see it there in Cinnamon's live video with the wind that is really beginning to whip. Let's take a closer view of the Jennings Skycam first, then I'm going to show you what it looks like here in downtown. First up here in Jennings, the wind's really beginning to ramp up. So far, I have seen the wind, and it was just doing it a second ago, to 68 miles per hour. There we are into the mid-50 range as I speak at the moment, upper